On this week's edition of the Loud Nerd in the Basement podcast, I go over Tom Holland talking about passing the Spider-Man mantle, Mandalorian and Grogu having a big box office drop, End of Oak Street trailer, and Zach Snyder remaking Escape from New York. All this and more on the Loud Nerd in the Basement podcast. Welcome back to another Friday News Roundup edition of the Loud Nerd in the Basement podcast. As always, I'm your host, Adam Zolnai. Thank you so much for listening wherever you may be listening from. Remember, this podcast is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Substack. So however you are listening, thank you so much. I appreciate your support. And as always, if you want to get the full experience of Loud Nerd in the Basement, whether it's submitting questions on here, or getting access to spoiler articles like the one I have up for Mandalorian and Grogu right now, or regular monthly rewind reviews like the one that's coming out next week for Superman 2025, all you have to do is upgrade your subscription to paid. It's $6 a month or $50 a year, so that's the cost of a coffee per month, or less than a subscription for a streaming service per year. And it wouldn't be going to a large corporation. It would be going to an independent writer like me. So if that's something you're interested in, just go ahead and head on over to Substack and click the upgrade button, and it'll walk you through that process. But no matter what, thank you so much for listening and for reading. I really appreciate the support. We're really rolling on all cylinders right now, and I'm so excited for what the future holds for not only the podcast, but for the Substack in general. This is, again, something I love that I get to do, and I want to be able to keep doing it and make a little money from it. So any and all support really helps. But with that, let's get into the news. And also, if you happen to hear any strange noise, not strange noise, if you think my voice sounds a little weird, it's because I'm suffering from some allergies and sinuses. We are in that part of the year, unfortunately, where I am at. And the trees are trying to kill me, but I will survive. I may just sound a little weird. But to our first news topic, we go to Tom Holland. Obviously, we've got a brand new Spider-Man movie coming out next month. Cannot wait for that. Really excited. He was speaking to Empire Magazine, and also he's in the Odyssey. I just realized that. Forgot about that. Yeah, so speaking to Empire Magazine, he said, quote, "For whoever's next, whether that is Miles Morales, or Spider-Gwen, or Spider-Woman, or something like that, I would love to be a part of setting up the next chapter. Whatever that looks like, I don't know. But if I could do what Downey did for me, then I'd be content swinging off into the sunset." First of all, I'm really happy to see this attitude from Tom Holland. Some actors, I feel like, would almost be like, "No, I'm not helping you. Like, I'm not gonna, bring in my replacement for me. I'm going to do my own thing, and then you do your own thing, but I'm not going to be involved in that process." So I appreciate him willing to pay it forward and continue to extend the ladder beneath him to bring someone else up. I appreciate that attitude. As far as bringing Miles Morales into it, I mean, we've already gotten a little bit of a tease for Miles in Spider-Man Homecoming. Donald Glover played Miles' Uncle Aaron in that version, in that universe. So they've already kind of set up Miles Morales a little bit. My big thing would be is just how the MCU looks after Secret Wars. I've talked about this a lot. We know that some kind of a reboot for the MCU is coming, whether it's wholesale, we're recasting everybody, everyone's going, all new characters, all new cast, we're starting from zero again. If it's that way, I would want them to wait a little bit on Miles Morales so we can establish the new Peter Parker, get a chance to see that Peter Parker interact with the X-Men, with the Fantastic Four, because that's something I've really wanted to see. In the comics, Peter is linked very heavily to the Fantastic Four and Johnny Storm, the Human Torch specifically. They are best friends. They have a meeting spot on the Statue of Liberty. I would love to be able to see that relationship explored a little bit on screen before we move on to Miles Morales. Same with the X-Men in the Ultimate Universe, the original Ultimate Universe. Peter has a relationship with Kitty Pryde for a little bit. They date. So just getting a chance to see Spider-Man interact with those characters in a way we haven't seen before, I would want that before we move to Miles Morales. Plus, I feel like it would have a bigger impact if we get invested in whether it's Tom Holland's Peter or a new Peter. I would want to get invested into that version of the character so that when he does die, there's weight to that, and it helps propel Miles' character even better. One of the things I loved about the original Ultimate comic when Miles was introduced was that Peter kind of becomes his Uncle Ben. In the comics, if you aren't aware, in the Ultimate Universe, Peter Parker dies in a fight with the Green Goblin. Basically, he just unloads. It's almost like a Death of Superman situation where both of them are just wailing on each other, and they both kind of end up taking each other out. And then what you find out is that Miles, who already has been bitten by the spider at this time, was on the scene and watching from afar, and basically didn't intercede, and then he feels guilty about that. Again, becoming kind of like an Uncle Ben situation where it's like, I could have helped Spider-Man and maybe he wouldn't be dead today, but I didn't. And I had the power to help him. Like, I could have come in and wailed on Goblin with him, and maybe I could have saved him and helped him. So I would love to see that done on screen. Because the Spider-Verse movies, I love those movies. They're really good. They didn't go in that direction with Miles, so I think that's one way you can differentiate them from this version of Miles from that Miles. And also, again, just add another layer onto that whole way of him learning with great power comes great responsibility. Because he kind of does that a little bit in Spider-Verse, but again, they take it in a different direction. So I wouldn't mind that. I don't know if I'd want Spider-Gwen brought into the main universe. I don't like how they've done that with the comics where they brought her in to the main universe. I think she works better on her own, but when you have like a bunch of spider people together, it just for me doesn't work. It really takes away what makes Peter Parker and Spider-Man each Spider-Man unique. They are unique within their own universes, and if you have a bunch of them going around at the same time, like Spider-Man or Peter and Miles has kind of worked a little bit. We've seen in the video games that work a little bit, although it wasn't very executed very well, in my opinion, in Spider-Man 2, the game. But so I would want them to go with Miles Morales again, especially because they've already set it up. But again, I need to see what the MCU looks like before we. I don't want them rebooting the universe and then first time we see Spider-Man, he's dying and Miles Morales comes in. Like, I want to let Peter live in that new universe for a movie or two before we get to Miles. Just, again, have that build up and, again, that investment on that character before we kill him. So that's my big thing. But I'm excited to see it. I do think it will happen down the line. Plus, I assume Marvel would want to wait anyways until Sony is done with their Spider-Verse movies. So next year is when, please God, is when the last Spider-Verse movie will come out. So plus giving that some breathing room before introducing Miles again in live action, I wouldn't mind them waiting a little bit. And again, just giving us that proper build-up. But moving on to another Disney property, although I guess Spider-Man is not Disney, but whatever. Marvel, MCU, it's all Disney. We're all Disney at this point. Star Wars, The Mandalorian and Grogu suffers a 69% box office drop. It went from earning $137 million domestically in its opening weekend to getting only $25 million in its second weekend. That's not great. That's a really big drop off. Usually what we see and what most studios want to see is like a 50 to 55% drop off, like half. And especially in the busy summer season, that's kind of what you expect to be the norm. Your biggest take is always going to be the opening weekend. And so if that doesn't do well, then it doesn't look good really for your movie in the long term. Now, there have been instances where it's kept steady or gone up because of word of mouth. Obviously, that did not happen here. Excuse me, I'm going to take a drink. I think I wouldn't call this the death knell for Star Wars. I'm not ready to pronounce it dead on the table or have an article in loud caps just being like, Star Wars is dead, failure, all done, blah. I don't think... I think there were several factors as to why this movie isn't doing well at the box office. I think one, the fact that it is attached to a TV show didn't help, because whether or not the movie is pretty accessible for people who haven't watched the Mandalorian and Grogu show, or the Mandalorian show. It might as well be the Mandalorian and Grogu show. Haven't watched the show, you can watch the movie without that and still have an enjoyable experience. You miss a lot of the backstory and a lot of the foundation, but if you're going in just to watch a fun Star Wars movie with not much substance to it, then you're probably okay. But I think because they attached it to a TV show, you have that stigma of people going, "Well, I haven't watched the TV show, and I don't want to watch 3.5 seasons of Disney Plus in order to watch this movie. So just forget it. I'll just wait until it comes out on Disney Plus and watch everything together." I think also the fact that it feels like a streaming movie. There's, and I said this in my review, there's just not much to it that feels cinematic. There's not those shots or that feel of just like, this is a movie. It really feels just like 4 episodes strung together, and that I think also doesn't help. I mean, even word of mouth for it, on the positive side that I've seen, a lot of it's just like, it was fun. It's forgettable. It's not a huge movie, and for a and that's not what you want when you're bringing a franchise back to the theater after 7 years. You want to have that hype, and there was just not much to get hyped around. It didn't help that season 3 was not that good and turned a lot of fans off. To then go, hey, want more of that? No, not really. And then on top of that, there's just not that much substance to it. There's not much to get attached to. You mean, you even look at the prequels and the sequels, for as much as they are maligned for different reasons, the prequels I think are better than the sequels in that they tried to tell a new and interesting story, and there's a story in there that's cohesive. It's just buried under a lot of bleh, and George Lucas just was not the person to handle that alone, in my opinion. But there was ideas there, and there was stuff to get excited about. I mean, think about it. Episode 1, you got pod racing, you got Darth Maul, you got the height of the Republic. You get to see all that for the first time on screen. You're excited. Episode 2, you got Anakin Skywalker trained to be a Jedi with Obi-Wan Kenobi. You got the start of the Clone Wars and all the conspiracy on that. You got the love story for people who wanted that aspect, although I hate sand. I'm just saying. Not a compelling argument, Anakin. And then episode 3, obviously, end of the Clone Wars. Anakin turning to the dark side, Jedi going almost extinct, the dark side winning. Like, there was stuff there to get hyped about. But with Mandalorian and Grogu, there wasn't. And you can get away with having a low stakes story if the characters themselves are interesting. Like Andor, great example. Low stakes because 1, we know what happens, and 2, the show ends with the beginning leading into Rogue One, so it's not like the end goal of the show is, oh, we're going to we got the plans for the Death Star. Like, that happens in the movie afterwards, but the show made the characters so interesting and compelling that you were just there to see where they went. And not just Andor himself, but all the other characters that were in that. You were invested, even though you knew where the story went. But with Mandalorian and Grogu, I said this in my review, there's just nothing to get attached to. There's no real substance to it. It's all, it's cotton candy, basically, where it's, it's fun to experience it for a brief moment, but I don't want to have it all the time. And when it's over, I go on about my day not really thinking about it. And that's kind of what Mandalorian and Grogu was. They should have come out, I think Starfighter is what they seem to be hanging their all their eggs in, putting all their eggs into that basket in terms of how they're going to measure Star Wars' success, as well as what they think should be done with it in the future. I hope with that movie then, I think what helps with that movie is it's set in a different time period. It's set after Rise of Skywalker, so you're in a whole new time period that we have not seen before, so there's already something the audiences can get interested in. Two, you got all new characters, so you have a chance to tell an interesting story with characters and actually develop them and get us invested in them. And you get to, and with Starfighter in the title, I hope that means we're going to see some really cool space battles. So there's a chance that that can turn things around. But I think beyond that, and I said this, I think it was last week or the week before, Star Wars needs to have a schedule of releases, and they need stuff for people to get hyped about. They need to communicate better with the fans. The fact that we don't know what's in development and what's still going on, and we only hear these little leaks through investor calls or little snippets we get in the media. I mean, I didn't even know the new Jedi Order movie was canceled until I read that article that I talked about on the show. I didn't even know that happened. That was canceled. And was that the Rey movie, or was the Rey movie a different thing? I don't know. Is the Rey movie now the episodes 10, 11, and 12? Like, is that being rolled into that storyline? Like, the fact that we don't know what's going on. Taika Waititi's movie, is that still happening? Is James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi movie still happening? Like, what is going on? And I think I'm giving Dave Filoni a little grace because he just got into his new role. But I do think next year at Star Wars Celebration, I've said this before, he needs to make sure to have something to get fans excited about. If it's just, hey, Ahsoka Season 2 is coming, and Starfighter's coming, and that's it, I think they've already lost the fans then. I think they will lose the fans by then. Because it's like, well, if you don't seem like you're invested in this property, why do I want to get invested? So I think they need to come out swinging next year and be like, okay, 2027, you got Ahsoka Season 2 and Jedi Star or Star Wars Starfighter. Not Jedi Starfighter, that's a video game. Not a bad video game, by the way. So Star Wars Starfighter coming out in 2027. 2028, here's the shows, here's the movie. You have to have more than just animated shows. Maul's Shadow Lord was good, but but Star Wars is a movie property. Make movies about it. Make something cinematic that's worth going to the theater to see. I know that they can do it. It's so. The reason I'm passionate and frustrated is I just got done reading the Revan novel and the Star Wars Scoundrels novel by Timothy Zahn, and those stories, they're from the old Legends books, so those are no longer technically canon. But they're really compelling stories to read, and with, like, in the case of Revan, it's a character that was not in the movies, was made for video games, and then expanded on in the books, and it gets you invested. It gets you excited about Star Wars. It gets your imagination going, which is what Star Wars should be. I don't know what more they can do. They need to recapture that somehow. I don't know what they can do to do that, but it's got to be more than just, hey, here's more of Darth Maul. Hey, here's Mandalorian and Grogu again, doing Mandalorian and Grogu things. Like, capture my imagination again in the way that the original Star Wars did for so many people and the prequels did for a whole nother generation. That's what they need to do, and I just don't see... And I think the reason this failed is because it didn't do that. It was just more of what we already had gotten. So I think Starfighter needs to do that. I think whatever else they come up with, they need to do that. I hope that Dave Filoni can understand that and put aside his own desires for Star Wars, because I do think he gets a little too attached with his original characters, Ahsoka especially. That character should have died at least twice now and hasn't. I hope he can get out of his own way and recognize what Star Wars needs to do and what Star Wars needs to be. But we will see. But what we do know that's a good vision of the future for us is in the DC universe. James Gunn has revealed Lex Luthor's power suit for the Superman sequel, Man of Tomorrow, and it looks amazing. Obviously, I can't show a picture because this is audio only, but Google it, check it out. It is a one-for-one from the comics, and I am so happy to see this. This is one of the reasons I really loved his Superman, was because it felt like the comics come to life in a way we hadn't gotten in a DC movie in a long time. Everything felt like it was through the lens of that particular director and filmmaker rather than just, here's the comic off the page. And this looks like what That's what it's going to be and continues to be. And I'm really excited. We got Supergirl coming up. I'm really excited about that. I'm hoping that's good. But I'm just so glad that it seems to be James Gunn's like read the books and is like, how can we put this in a movie? How can we make that into a movie and make it cohesive? So I'm really excited for that. I just wanted to mention it because it's just so awesome and I cannot wait for that movie. But moving on, a new movie that's coming out in August, The End of Oak Street, starring Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor, produced by J.J. Abrams and directed and written by David Robert Mitchell. It looks to be the story of a suburban family who somehow mysteriously gets transported back to dinosaur times and has to learn to survive and figure out how they got there and how they will get back. It looks awesome. I saw a comment on the trailer under the trailer in YouTube and someone put it this way, and I agree with it completely. This is what Jurassic World should have done. They teased in those movies the idea of like, oh, what will the world be like now that dinosaurs are out in the world and roaming free? And then they never really explored that idea fully, I think. In my opinion, they only kind of touched on it. But here, it's really just like, what if you put a suburban family in the middle of a dinosaur, in the middle of dinosaur times? What would happen? Like, what would that look like? And it looks awesome. It looks exciting and terrifying. I didn't originally have this on my radar, but I might have to add it to my review slate. My only concern is the mystery box of it all. You've got J.J. Abrams producing, he's not directing, but I'm sure his influence will be on the movie. I'm worried about the whole mystery box thing of like how they got there. They hint in the trailer, you see like a glowing bubble, and they imply that aliens may be involved. I'm just hoping that whatever that mystery is satisfying and doesn't feel like it comes out of left field. That's my only concern with it. Is can they nail that payoff? And with J.J. Abrams, he doesn't have the greatest track record of giving us good payoffs to mystery boxes. So we will see, but I'm actually really excited about this. I think I might actually go see it if I have time and room in my budget. Because it looks like it could be good. But moving on to our last piece of news. Let me get a drink. Escape from New York is getting a remake and is being written and directed by Zach Snyder. And this is actually interesting because I had wondered what Snyder was going to do next. Obviously, he had those, after his DC movies, he had those movies he did for Netflix. From what I heard, they didn't do very well streaming numbers wise. And after that, he kind of just went quiet for a couple years. So I'm interested. It was interesting to see him getting picked for this. As far as I know, let me see. It doesn't look like it's been picked up by a studio yet. It's just in development, and then he's going to pitch it. And apparently he's going to be making he says, according to the Hollywood Reporter, he's going to be, and I quote, aims to make a more down and dirty movie with plenty of practical effects. So, I mean, I'm excited about the practical effects idea, like keeping it kind of old school. I think this might be the movie that Snyder needs to kind of get away from trying to make a gigantic CGI-filled blockbuster with all these plot lines and characters. Because, again, for me, he's a nice guy. I just don't think he's a great storyteller. I don't think his DC movies are that good. His best one was probably Man of Steel. The one that I liked the most was Justice League because it took itself way less seriously than the other DC movies he made. I'm not a big fan of his Watchmen. 300 was good. He's really demonstrated that the best movies he can make are the ones where the movie or the story's already done for him, so he doesn't have to really do any add-on work to it or add to it himself or create anything on his own. He's just, again, he's not that good of a storyteller in my opinion. So I'm intrigued by this. This might be kind of a catharsis for him where, hey, it's just a small movie, not a huge scale, make it more practical and gritty and real. I don't know why we need an Escape from New York remake. The original is just fine. I mean, I guess you could add some more relevant political commentary to it. Although, I mean, it's not inaccurate. It's not far off from what we have now in terms of what New York City has become. But that's a whole nother issue. Uh, but my big worry would be is just I don't know if Zack Snyder has the subtlety to add that political commentary and satire the way John Carpenter did. So that would be my biggest worry, is that it would become too on the nose or so over the top that the point is lost in all the action and stuff. So that would be my biggest concern. But I'm intrigued. This might be just what Snyder needs, and I wish him luck. We'll see. I mean, it has to get picked up before it can be actually put into full development. So we'll see if it even makes it that far. But interesting choice, and we'll see what Snyder does with it. But that's all I have for the news this week. And moving on to our subscriber questions. We got 3 this week, so hang on to your hats. They're really good questions. You guys do a really good job of coming up with some interesting questions that I actually have to think about for a bit. I appreciate you not taking it easy on me, but no new paid subscribers to shout out. And again, if you want to be able to submit questions and have your name shouted out on here, all you got to do is upgrade your subscription. Again, just $6 a month or $50 a year, so not anything too demanding. I appreciate it, and let's get into it. So the first question is, what was a movie you had little or no expectations about, but when you saw it, it blew you away? Man, this was a hard one for me. Because, especially as we've gotten more and more online, it's hard to ignore hype for certain movies. But one that came to mind for me was The Martian with Matt Damon, the first Andy Weir adaptation. Just because, I had heard a little bit about it, but, nothing either way where it was bad or it was good. It was just, people are enjoying this movie. That's the extent of what I heard about it. I hadn't really read the book or hadn't watched any of the trailers. It was one of those that just was not on my radar at that time. If you don't remember, 2015 was a little packed. You had Jurassic World, Avengers, Age of Ultron, The Force Awakens, so it kind of got lost in the shuffle for me. And then when I was like, let me check this out, I got I rented the Blu-ray or the DVD. I can't remember, probably DVD at the time. I rented the DVD and was like, okay, let me check this out. And I was like, oh wow, this is really good. This is some really good sci-fi stuff. And it got me into reading the book, which made me a big fan of Andy Weir, which led me to read Project Hail Mary, which got me excited for the movie. So it just started this snowball effect of stuff for me. And it really blew me away just with the optimistic look on it. Sci-fi has really become more about the dystopian nature of our world today, and really gone hard into how bad things could get based on where we're on the potential path that we could be headed as a society. So it was nice to kind of get an upbeat science fiction movie where also it was like, the guy writing the science stuff really knows what he's talking about. It's not just gobbledygook science jargon that really doesn't mean much, or thinks that saying MC squared, E equals MC squared, it makes you sound like a genius. The science was really at the forefront of it. And it was just a really fun movie, and again, really uplifting. So I appreciated that about it, and it really blew me away with that. And of course, Matt Damon's always good. So, and it was one of Ridley Scott's better movies in recent years. So thank you for that question. The next one is, comic books are essentially modern-day fables about justice, sacrifice, and doing the right thing. In your opinion, which superhero on screen right now best embodies those deep moral values, and who is your personal favorite to root for? This one was not too hard. I think James Gunn's Superman really embodies the deep moral values. The willingness to just care for everybody as an individual, treat everyone right, want to do good just for the sake of being good. And if you have the ability to help somebody, do it. Having all this power and not abusing it, and just, again, being a kind person, despite what the world treats you, how the world treats you, just reflecting kindness in all that you do, and just being a good person. I really, really like that. Embodying hope. And I really think James Gunn's Superman did that. Like, everyone that I talked to walked out of that movie just in good, high spirits. And that's what I think really is a good reflection of what deep moral values I want to impart to those around me, especially my kids. And as for my personal favorite to root for, if you know me at all, it's Spider-Man. Just because, easily able to relate to, he's the guy who doesn't give up, and even if he screws up, he tries to fix it. He takes responsibility for his mistakes. He's not perfect. For me, especially as a kid growing up, reading Brian Michael Bendis' Ultimate Spider-Man comics, where that's where Peter is a teenager in the early 2000s, like I was a teenager in the mid 2000s, but it still resonated with me of just like, oh, here's this kid that's just trying to figure it all out and trying to do the best that he can and be the best person that he can be. And even though he stumbles and sometimes gets in his own way, he still strives to do the best that he can. And that has really caused me to easily root for him. Is like, oh, I could see myself as this guy. So thank you for that question. And the last one, which was another really good one and another tough one. If you had to only choose 10 movies from the Infinity Saga before Infinity War and Endgame, what would you choose as the most important ones to show someone? This was tough, but what I tried to do was incorporate, like, okay, which ones are the most important character-wise, and then which ones were the most important plot-wise. So, going from just release date. So at the beginning, I would obviously start with the first Iron Man movie. You gotta start with Iron Man. It's the foundation for the MCU. It sets up Tony's whole character arc going all the way through Endgame. So that's really important. And then I would also say all three Captain America movies, because one, you get Steve Rogers' journey to Infinity War. Civil War is hugely important because it sets up the status quo for the Avengers in Infinity War. And also, just again, seeing how he changes and how the world around him changes. Like, you got Winter Soldier, the destruction of S.H.I.E.L.D., that's a huge thing, and the reemergence of Hydra because they're fighting Hydra in Age of Ultron. And speaking of Age of Ultron, I would obviously have Avengers 1 and Avengers 2 as must watch, because it really kind of introduces Black Widow, Thor, and Hawkeye really well, and Loki, he's another guy that's very important. And for that reason, I would have Thor the Dark World, because you got one of the Infinity Gems in there, and that's when you really start to see Thor lose people around him. He thinks Loki is dead, he loses his mother, and then Thor Ragnarok as well, because he loses Odin. His relationship with Loki evolves there to where they're kind of friends and brothers again. And obviously the end of that movie shows Thanos showing up on Asgard, and you get the status of Asgard in that movie. So I think that's important. Guardians 1, I think that's another one where it introduces an Infinity Stone, introduces Thanos, and then also sets up the Guardians and has them in a good spot that when you go right into Infinity War, I think there's not much question as to what's been going on. And then lastly, I think Ant-Man, just because it establishes like what the Ant-Man suit can do, it establishes the quantum realm, so that when you get to Endgame and you realize Scott has been stuck there for 5 years. Even if you don't see it, it's like, oh, okay, I know what that is. I know how the Ant-Man stuff works. And then also going into like Civil War, seeing him become huge, you get the full range of what Ant-Man's about, who he is, who Scott Lang is, his foundational relationship with both Hope and Hank, as well as his daughter, really establishes all of that, so you get all of Scott's world in there and what the stakes are for him going into Endgame. So those are my 10, but you should comment below on Substack about what you think, or on YouTube, and tell me what 10 movies you think you would show someone leading up to Infinity War and Endgame. But that's all our subscriber questions. Again, thank you so much, guys, for your support and for submitting those questions. Those are great questions. I get excited getting ready to answer these each and every week. That it makes it entertaining for me. Before we get out of here, what I'm watching, right now I'm rewatching Last of Us Season 1 with my wife. She's never seen it or played the games. We just watched episode 3 the other day. She's enjoying it. She's not the biggest like horror fan, so she gets a little more creeped out by the clickers and stuff than I do since I've played the games. But it's actually been kind of fun seeing her experience the story for the first time. And then I also kind of get to tell her, oh, here's what's in the games, here's what they changed from the games, here's how they expanded the lore. It's been fun to watch that with her. I've been enjoying it. And I've really appreciated through the first 3 episodes just how well written that show is and well acted. It's really good, really solid stuff. Second season game not so much, but we won't get into that. That's another topic for another time. But last thing before we jump out of here, current article up this week. I got, for paid subscribers, spoiler article on the Mandalorian and Grogu, so you get all my spoilery thoughts on everything that happened in that movie. And then for all subscribers, I put out a article on Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, talking all about that comic that's being used as the basis for the film, just so that way people can understand why they chose the characterization for Kara that they did. It is from the comics. It's a newer comic, came out in like 2022, I believe. So there is basis for where they're going with that character and how much of an interesting setup it is for Supergirl. So it's not just something out of left field or being edgy for edgy's sake. There is purpose behind it. I'm hoping that movie does well. It's not tracking to be a big hit right now. Part of it is I just think there's an issue with having too many movies released during the summer, but that's a whole nother ordeal. And then next week's article is going to be a review on Masters of the Universe. I'm going to see the new He-Man movie this weekend. I'm really excited. I bought my ticket last night, so I'll be seeing that and then giving you a spoiler-free review. I won't be doing a spoiler-filled article just because I don't think there's going to be that much in it. If there is, maybe I'll do one, but I'm also not the biggest He-Man fan, so there's not a lot of Easter eggs and lore that I can be like, hey, they put this in there. I just know Skeletor and He-Man and She-Ra, and that's about it. So I'm excited for it. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope it's good. I'll be doing a review on that and releasing it next Wednesday. But that's all I got for today. As always, thank you so much. If you can give me a like and subscribe on YouTube, that'd be great. And give me a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, that would really help out. Keep boosting my show in the algorithm. But as always, just thank you so much. I love that I get to do this. I love that I get to make this my business, and you guys are a huge reason as to why I get to continue doing that. So thank you so much. You guys have a great day and a great week, and I will be back next week with more news. Bye.